you might not have them at your disposal. So the ones that I really want you to be aware of are your yoga blocks. If you have yoga blocks, that's going to be great because I offer a ton of modifications with yoga blocks. And I find them to be very useful tools. So always try to have them handy and nearby. And I'll try to cue you as often as I can to remember where they should be. The other thing that you might have is a strap, a yoga strap. There are a bunch of different styles of yoga straps. You can get ones like that. You can get super long ones like this. This is like a 10-footer. So I mean, this thing is pretty amazing. But you can use a strap for a lot of different poses. And again, I have them to share with you. Another thing that works really great as a strap is just using a towel. This is just a standard sweat towel. It's designed again for Bikram classes, but it works really well as a strap. So even just, you don't need a strap. Even something like a towel works very well as a strap. Certain poses require multiple straps. So it's nice to have multiple straps or multiple towels so that you can get yourself in certain positions. So I'll try not to overcomplicate things too much for you. I just believe in modification and doing all the modification poses. So what's going to happen over the next couple hours is we're going to practice what's in the yoga book. There is quite a large amount of material in there. We've also added a few asana sequences in there. This class was originally designed to be 16 hours long. So it's been reduced to only 8, which means we have half the time that we normally do. So in order to get through all the poses and the modifications, I'm going to break them down individually. And I'm going to teach them in an awkward order at first. However, I'm going to make all that come back full circle in the end and make it make more sense for you. Because the point I want to make is this, everybody. Your class, your sequence should have a flow to it. There should be a destination or a goal in mind. You want to be practicing a certain pose or doing a certain series of poses. You want to prepare the body for that. So you want to sequence your class in such a way so that one thing follows the other and that your energy level is on a bell curve. Now, what I mean by that is this. At the start of your class, the energy level is very low, and then it begins to rise and go up. As you can, when you start this process with warm-ups and sun salutations, which we'll talk about later. So you do those things at the beginning, and they start to increase in intensity and energy level. Then you get to the standing poses and the balancing poses, and now you're at probably the peak of the class. This is your main pose that you want to get to. At that point, you want to bring your students down. So you want to start bringing poses that are less energy required or that are easier to do. Things like back bends, forward folds, twists. And then you end the class with what's called Shavasana. Shavasana is where you lay down on your back and you simply seal your practice. It's a pose in and of itself. One might not think that lying down is a posture, but it really so much is. And it's important to leave time for this. Everybody, when you're teaching a class, please leave time for sun salutations, for Shavasana at the end. This is going to depend on how long your class is, whether you're teaching a 60-minute class, whether you're teaching a 90-minute class, something along those lines. That's all going to vary. So that being said, I think I've covered all the modification and the beginning there. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Nikki, I got your email, and thank you so much for reminding me that you leave early. I remember. I believe you have to leave, is it 4 o'clock? Is that correct? You still here, Nikki? I'm pretty sure that's what she said to me. Oh, she's not at her mat, of course, but she will be later. Excellent, I'll talk to Nikki later in a second. All right, so now, my point is this. So I'm going to teach all these asanas in an order that I don't really want to teach them. I told you this idea of a bell curve. Now I'm going to be teaching class these poses we're going to go from a seated position to a standing position to a seated position to a standing position, and we're going to be doing things in an order that you're not typically going to do. Given the time constraints, though, it's necessary to take the time to show all the modifications. Once we know all the modifications, we're going to run through the entire thing again, and then we're going to do the entire class over, except it's going to be quick. We're probably going to go through it in like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something like that. So once I show you all the modifications and the postures that you can use, we'll do it again, and then that'll give you some idea, some indication of what it's like to do the class for an hour. Because you're going to find that this goes by so fast when you teach, and you're going to have a plan to do certain things, and you might not get to them because you're spending time doing other things. So it's always a good idea to have more material than you need to teach. So I want to provide you with some foundational poses that you're all familiar with, not that you're all familiar with, but that most of you are familiar with, and the ones that are typically taught at an introductory level to someone who is just learning yoga for the first time. And that's probably the best place to be. So with all that in mind, let us begin. The first set we're going to talk about is in the book. Now, again, we're going to cover a balancing series, a standing series, a flow series, and a floor series. I'm going to teach you these series out of order, but they're all in the book. And once we're through them all, then I'll show you the series in its entirety, the way it should be taught. And that'll make more sense. So in the beginning, we start with this, what's called set 2, which is the floor series. So that's done on your bellies. Come lie on your stomach. What you want to do is take your elbows and bring them underneath your shoulders. Place your palms on the floor. You can bring your legs, your inner thighs together. It's okay to have a little bit of distance between your feet. And you're in this position here. This is called Sphinx pose. From another angle, it looks like this. Very simple, easy to do, not hard on the back. And what's nice about it is that it's a back bend. And this is a pose that you can use for people who want to access what's called Cobra or Bhujangasana. So this is where you start them. You put them here if they have problems with the pose, because they might have difficulty opening their chest, which will run into problems later on. So you start them all simple with something like this. Real easy, not hard. Anybody can do this. However, because everybody can do it, you want to take it further. So the next part of the pose is, instead of having your elbows on, so you should be feeling sensation in your elbows. Most of the weight is in your elbow at this point. So now what I want you to do is take your hands where your elbows are and place them just underneath your shoulders. This changes the pose dramatically, because now it's way more difficult to open the chest and to back bend. However, it's the first part of the pose. So you begin with something right here. Next, you want to take them a little bit further. So you're going to have them push up a little bit and then arch the back a little more slightly. Now this is going to, again, depending on how you're holding yourself up, you're going to experience this in a whole bunch of different parts of your body. But the idea is that you're squeezing your shoulder blades together and that you're actually lifting with your leg strength, not your arms. You might be tempted to have all the weight in your hands. You actually want to have the lift from your spine coming from your legs, not your hands. You're trying to lift your lower back here, not your upper back. So you go right here. The full expression of the pose is when you go all the way up. This requires most of the energy. And when your shoulder blades are fully back, your neck is slightly pushing behind you, and you're looking upwards. This is the full expression of the pose. And come down. From here, come up into a plank position. Place your knees on the floor. And then sit back and cross your legs. That is a back bend. And in these series, we're following back bends to forward folds to neutral positions. That's the idea behind these sets. So the next pose in the set is head to knee. For head to knee, bring your right foot out and keep your left foot at your hip crease. There are a ton of different places to go at this point. This is the first level of the pose, is just finding this. Now what I would like you to do is inhale your arms up, lift your chest, fold forward at the hips, and try to touch your toes. Some of you can probably get there. Others might be struggling. It's okay. If you can't touch your toes, then this is a great place to have one of your yoga straps. So take the yoga strap, wrap it around your foot, and then choke up a little bit on it so that your shoulders are still pinching together and you're lifting your chest, but now your hands are holding on to something. This is a little bit easier to do. You can take this pose even further. If you're flexible enough, what you want to be doing is working on bringing your elbows to the floor. So you're actually trying to bring your elbows all the way down to the floor as you lift your chest and fold forward. This asks a lot of your hamstrings. So some of you might want to strap here. Others might be able to do it without it. This is probably the most advanced version of the pose so far. Release the strap or your foot and come out of the pose. Turn your right foot in and extend your left foot out, switching sides. You're going to notice that one side is different than the other, and it's okay. So what's important is to figure out the sensation and what exactly that is. So let's start with the first variation that I showed you. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, fold forward, and try to touch your toes. If you can touch your toes, excellent. If you cannot touch your toes, use a yoga strap. Whether you're using a yoga strap or not, lift from the chest, or rather lift the chest up and fold from the hip. The tendency in this pose is to let your shoulders droop and to roll forward to try to reach those toes because they're far away. You want to fight that. The pose needs to come from your hips, folding forward, not your upper body. You have to be folding from your lower spine, so you need to lift your chest as you do that. So it's nice to have a strap. For those of us who can take the pose even further, attempt to bring your elbows to the floor, whether you're holding a strap or not, and then try to touch your toes. You're going to notice a greater stretch, perhaps in your hamstrings, maybe in your calf muscles or your Achilles tendon. There are a million different places that might be tight right now. What's important is just to breathe and to just attempt to relax as you go into these poses. You want to engage, but at the same time be receptive. Inhale, release your strap or your foot and come out of the pose. Bring your left foot in, turn your right foot out. So those are 3 modifications you can use for that pose. You can even take that pose even further. However, it requires a bit of flexibility to do. So what I would recommend is that if you have a yoga block nearby, sit on the yoga block. You don't have to. You can stay where you are if you don't have a yoga block. But this next pose requires a bit of support in order to do, at least for me. So when you sit up on a yoga block, you're going to notice that your sit bones are higher and your hips are more aligned. So it's easier to fold forward while lifting the chest. You can go forward without the strap or with the strap. You can get your elbows closer to the floor, whether you are using the block or not. So that's one modification there. The next part of the pose is where it gets complicated. So here, what you do is you take your left foot and you bring it into the hip crease of your hip. So you bring it all the way here. This requires a lot of flexibility to do. So take your time here, people. Don't necessarily do this if you have a bum knee. This is going to ask a lot of this part of your knee. However, you might be flexible enough to get your foot close to your thigh crease. Now, what you can see here on my monitor is that my leg is off of the floor. This is a bad thing. You do not want that. In order to properly do this pose, the leg needs to be on the floor. So for an individual like myself, you would need a bolster or something to support that leg. You see how much more in alignment I am? That leg can move closer to the floor. Now, whatever position you're in, whether you're propped up on some kind of yoga block or bolster, you can also use a yoga block here. They work really well. You have a yoga block, put that under your leg. It really helps keep the knee safe. Now, if you are at this position and you want to take it further, inhale your arms up. Exhale, fold forward over your hip, just like you did in the first pose. Now, odds are you can't go nearly as far because your hip is opening in this position. So again, try to do the same modifications. If you need a yoga strap, grab a yoga strap. It's probably really going to help. And adjust the length of it so that you can properly fold forward at your hip. Instead of reaching your neck forward, rolling your shoulders and trying to touch your foot, fold from the hip, no matter what point you're in. So this is and probably the most advanced version of this pose that we're going to go over. It's called half forward fold or a half lotus forward fold. Excellent pose, wonderful for the hamstrings, great stretch. However, it asks a lot. Switching sides. Take your left foot out, bring your right foot in. Adjust your stance if you're on a yoga block or not, and switch sides. So from here, take the right foot now and bring it into the left hip crease. If your knee is coming off of the ground when you do this, stop. Don't go any further. Make sure that you have a pad or some kind of cushion to do this pose. However, if you can get your knee to the ground when you're in this position, inhale the arms up and exhale, fold forward. Using a yoga strap if your hamstrings or your leg muscles are tight. Adjusting the length of it. It's going to be a lot longer now because this pose is a lot harder to do in this position. But what's more important than touching your toes is folding from your hips. I keep saying fold from the hips. Don't round your shoulders and try to force that grab. What's important is that you fold at the hips and that you use the proper tools. So if you're here, try to work on bringing your elbows to the ground. That might be way too far away and you don't want to try that. Maybe you're happy right where you are. However, maybe you want to try to bring your elbows to the ground. Maybe you have that in you. And the more you do that, you're going to find that this is actually stretching your lower back than your legs once you get to that level of flexibility. And then come up and out of the pose. Bring the right leg out and cross your ankles. Now, remove the yoga block. This pose can also be done on the yoga block or off of it, but I want to start with you off of the yoga block. This is a simple twist. It's the last pose in this set. So what you do is there are many modifications, but the first and easiest is to reach your left arm behind you. Inhale your right arm up. Exhale, bring your right hand to your left knee and twist to the left. This is a simple, easy twist. Switching sides. Inhale, exhale, back to center. Inhale the right arm behind you. Exhale. Inhale the left arm up. And exhale, bring the left hand to the right leg now and twist to the right. Coming back to center. Simple, easy twist. We can take that pose a lot further though. Let's begin by extending both legs out. Now, take the left foot, reach it across the leg, and place it on the floor. Try to get all 4 points of contact to touch the floor. What I mean by that is the outside and inside edge of the front part of your foot and the inside and outside edge of the back part of your foot. Odds are you're bearing your weight on the outside edge of your foot here. However, some of you might be able to get the inside edge of your foot all the way down to the floor, and you need to do that in order to access the pose. It really affects the muscles up here when you do that. So if you're struggling where you are, here's where a yoga block comes in handy. You can sit on the yoga block instead, and that makes this a whole lot easier to do. So whatever version you're in, inhale the left arm behind you. Exhale. Inhale the right arm up. Exhale, bring the right elbow to the left knee and twist to the left now. This is asking a little bit more of a twist, and it's a little more difficult to do. However, it's more of a twist and it's more of an advanced version of the pose. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Extend both legs out. Switching sides, whether you're on a yoga block or not. Bring the the right leg, cross it over the left. Again, all 4 corners of the right foot touch the floor, if you can. From here, inhale the right arm up. Exhale, bring the right arm behind you and bring the left elbow to the right knee. Twist to the left. Remember, twists come from your legs. They don't come from your neck. So don't force the twist by looking behind you using your neck. Instead, squeeze your thighs together and twist from your lower spine and then let your neck follow. It's an important alignment cue with teaching a twist. Now, inhale, exhale, come back to center. From here, we can take the pose even further. Send both legs out. Now, bend the left knee and bring it to your hip. Bring the foot to your hip crease. From here, bring your right leg now and cross it over your left leg with this bend in your left knee. Now, this is asking the most out of you. This twist particularly targets your piriformis, which is a very common muscle that leads to pain. So this might be difficult for you to do. And if it's uncomfortable, you might want to back off. Or maybe this is exactly where you need to be. whether you're on a yoga block or not. It's a lot easier to do on a yoga block, but you don't have to be on one if you want to try a little bit more. From here, inhale the left arm up, inhale the right arm up, exhale, bring that behind you. Inhale the left arm up, exhale, bring the left elbow to the right knee. Twist to the right. This is the most advanced version of a twist. I could show you more, but this is far enough for now. This pose asks a lot of your piriformis, and it feels great. Inhale, exhale, come out of the pose. Extend both legs out forward. Switching sides. Now bend the right knee. Bring the right foot to the left hip crease. And now bring the left foot, cross it over the right leg. And again, try to get all four corners of the left foot to touch the floor. It's the most important thing to do. If you can't do that, you've got to go to the previous modification, which is why the yoga block really helps here. From here, inhale the left arm up, exhale, bring that behind you. Inhale the right arm up now, exhale, bring the right elbow to the left knee, and twist to the left. Odds are this feels a little different than the other side. It might be easier to do and more comfortable. It might be more challenging and perhaps discomforting. Whatever the option, it's okay. Just remember to not judge what's going on and to just breathe. Inhale, exhale, come out of the pose, send both your legs forward. That was the first set. In the book, there are those three poses. Cobra, forward fold, followed by a twist. So now that we've shown all the modifications of that set, we'll move on to the next set. The next set that we're going to talk about is the balancing series. So that's done standing up. So cross your legs, roll over your hips, bring your hands to the ground, come onto your knees. From here, send your feet back into a plank position. Slightly bend your knees and push up into downward dog. From here, inhale the right leg up. Exhale, step it up in between your hands if you can. And then step the back right foot up to meet the left in a forward fold. Bring the hands together. Inhale, rise up slowly, one vertebrae at a time, tucking the chin, and then look behind you as you back bend and come back to center. Now, that was a choppy way of getting you to a standing position. I took you from the floor to downward dog to a standing position. There are multiple ways to do that, and that's one way you can do it. You can do anything from downward dog, which is what we're going to do many times throughout the rest of this class. So that's set one. Now we're standing up. For this set, this is the balancing set. For here, there are 3 or 4 poses I want to cover. The first pose is dancer pose. Actually, no, the first pose is tree. Tree is the easiest one to do. So for tree, what I would like you to do is stand at the front edge of your mat with your feet together. This is called, and squeeze your shoulders together, drop your elbows, slightly tuck your tailbone, and you're in a position that's called mountain pose or Tadasana. From here, you can go anywhere. If you're an Iyengar-based type of yogi, this is usually where you begin, is in this position, because you can go anywhere from here. So we're going to go into tree now. To do that, bring the weight on to your left foot. Now, take your right foot and begin by placing it on your calf. Right on your calf. This is the first modification of the pose. It's the easiest version, and this is where most people begin, is right here with the foot on the calf. So bring your hands to your heart center. You can also go here, or if you would like more of a challenge, bring your hands up towards the ceiling in a V. The wider you open your hands, the easier the balance. The closer you bring your arms together and you form a steeple, the more difficult the balance. So again, multiple versions of tree on this side with the knee on the calf. Bring the hands back to heart center. Bring the right foot down and bring the weight now, shift the weight onto your right foot. Bring your left foot now to your calf, coming into the first version of tree. This might be where people begin, and this is odds are where most of us start. Now, lift your arms up towards the ceiling. Again, coming into another version of the pose. The wider your hands, the easier it is for balance. The more you bring your hands closer together, the more difficult balance becomes. Bring your hands back to heart center. Bring your left foot down. Bring the weight, shift the weight now onto your left foot. For the next version of the pose, bring your right foot now up to your right thigh. If you can reach it all the way into your upper thigh. Whatever you do, please don't put your foot on your knee. It's extremely dangerous. If you cannot, bring your foot all the way up into your hip. Then bring your foot right here and stay in version 1. But if you want to try version 2, try that. There's a counterbalance here between pushing with your standing leg into your bent leg and using your bent leg conversely to push into your standing leg. There's a tug of war going on here. Requires a little more flexibility and strength to do. Bring your hands to your heart center. From here, lift your hands up towards the ceiling. The wider your hands, the easier balance. The closer you bring your hands together, the more difficult balance becomes. Bring your hands back to heart center. Bring your right foot down towards the floor. Shift the weight onto your right foot. From here, now, bring your left foot into version 1 of tree or version 2 of tree. Either the foot on the calf or the foot on the upper inner thigh. Bring your hands to your heart center. Lift your hands towards the ceiling. Again, play with the distance with your hands, whether you want to stay here or go for a challenge, entirely up to you. For an even greater challenge, try closing your eyes. Most of us fall at that point. However, some of you have stood still if you were trying to close your eyes, which is excellent. No matter what version of the pose you're in, whether you've fallen out or you're still in it, bring your left foot down towards the floor. Now shift the weight onto your left foot. This is the third and final version of this pose. Now that the weight is on the left foot, bring the right foot not to the thigh, not to the calf, not to the thigh, but to the hip crease. So again, this requires flexibility, and it might be asking a lot of your knee. So if this is at all uncomfortable, stick with versions 1 or 2. Don't even try this. However, if you can do something like this, this is a more advanced version of the pose. Bring your hands to your heart center. Inhale, lift the hands towards the ceiling, keeping them wide for easy balance, close together for more challenging balance. And bring the hands back to heart center. Release the right foot. Bring the right foot towards the floor. Shift the weight onto your right foot now. Take your left foot and bring it into versions 1 on your calf, versions 2 on your thigh, or version 3 now to your hip crease. It might be difficult for your foot to stay in this position. It's okay to hold it with your hand and simply stay right here. This is asking a whole lot of your leg. If you want more of a challenge and you can do something like this, bring your hands to your heart center. No matter where you are, if you want to progress further, bring your hands up towards the ceiling. Playing with the distance between your hands and adjusting your balance. And bring your hands back to heart center. Release the left foot, bring the left foot towards the floor, and release the pose. So versions 1, 2, and 3 of that pose. I do recommend that you stick with just versions 1 and 2. Version 3 is very challenging. It's nice to have that for people who want to go a little bit further because it is in the book. There is a posture that's next that I want to show you, but it's a little difficult to do. And in order to do it, you have to be able to do what we just did first. So don't push yourselves too much harder than that, is what I'm trying to say. Moving on to another pose. One of my favorite poses is dancer pose. This is again a standing balancing pose and has multiple variations. So let's begin with something simple and easy, a simple calf stretch. So bring the weight onto your left foot. Bend your right knee. Grab the instep of your foot with your right hand and simply chill right here. This is a calf stretch, this is a quadricep stretch. And this is where the pose begins. It's just having flexibility in the flexibility in the quad. This might be asking a lot of people. This is hard to do for some people. And this is as far as they go. However, most of us can go a lot further. So, switching sides now. Bring the right foot down. Bring the weight onto the right foot. And now, bend the left knee. Grab the instep, grab the outstep. No, it's instep. Grab the instep of the right foot. So what I mean by instep is the inside edge of your foot. It's where your big toe is. Grab the instep and just stay right here. And then release. Bring the left foot down. You can take that pose a whole lot further. So bring your weight onto the left foot. Bend the right knee. Grab the instep of the right foot. From here, inhale the right arm up. Now, exhale, kick into the right hand as hard as you can with the left foot. You're going to notice that this dramatically affects your balance. The harder you kick, the more challenging it is for your balance. However, the more you kick and the more you use your right leg to kick upwards, the more balance you eventually maintain. From the side, it looks like this. All you're doing is just kicking this back foot into that back hand as hard as you can. You're not folding forward at all. You're simply kicking into this leg. Inhale, bring the right arm down, the left arm down, release the left hand or the right hand, and bring the right foot down. Shift the weight now onto the right foot, switching sides. Bend your left knee, grab the instep of your left foot. Inhale your right arm up now. Exhale, kick into that back left hand as hard as you can, without folding forward. No folding forward at all, simply kicking back with that leg as far as you can. Challenging your balance to just kick. And release, come back to center. Bring the left foot down now. Shifting the weight onto the left foot. This is the most advanced version of the pose now. So this is the full extension of the pose. So the weight is shifted onto the left foot, bend the right knee, grab the instep of the right foot, coming into version 1. Kick your foot into your hand into your foot, coming into version 2. Lifting the left arm up. Now exhale, fold forward at the hip as far as you can. Now it's going to be difficult to do. From the side, it looks like this. So this is version 2. Version 3, which is where you're folding forward, you're trying to get your upper body to be parallel with the floor. And again, that requires a lot of strength and flexibility to do. So it's the most advanced version of the pose, the most challenging version of the pose. And again, requires a lot of strength and flexibility to do. Inhale, your arm up. Exhale, bring the left foot down. Bring the right hand, or the left hand back to center. Switching sides. Weight on the right foot. Bend the left knee now. Grab the instep of your left foot. Inhale the left arm, or the right arm up. Coming into version 2. Exhale, kick into that right hand and that hand into that foot, coming into version 2. From here, fold forward at the hip while kicking into that back hand, and fold forward and work on getting your upper body to be parallel with the floor. Very intense pose, tremendous concentration, balance, strength, coordination, lots going on here. Inhale up, exhale, bring the left foot down, release the pose. All right, so that is dancer pose, versions 1, 2, and 3. The final pose in this set is tree. Is eagle. So for eagle, I want to begin by showing you this. This is the part where this pose gets a little complicated. It's with the elbows. So let me just show you first in this version, and then we'll practice it together. So what you want to do is take your arms and cross them underneath your elbows. Depending on which side we're doing, the left goes under the right, or the right goes under the left. From here, you turn your palms towards the ceiling, and then you try to interlace your fingers if you can. That might be far away, so you might not get that far. But if you can go this far. You don't have to actually go all the way to your fingers. If you can, however, interlace your fingers, that's even better. So it's a bit of a contortion move. And on the other end, you switch it. So the other elbow comes underneath, palms towards the ceiling, and now grab that wrist if you can. Again, it's okay to just grab the palm of your hand like this, or if you can, interlace your fingers. This is all going to depend on your shoulder. The tighter your shoulder or your deltoid, the harder this is going to be. So that's the first version of the pose. Now this is done standing up. So come to stand at your mat. Let's do it together now. First version of the pose, stand with your feet at about hip distance apart. Take the left arm and bring it underneath the right. From here, turn the palms towards the ceiling. From here, bring your hands together, twisting your wrists and attempting to interlace your fingers if you can. If you can't, it's okay. Just stay right here. This is version 1 of the pose. Slight bend in the knees, little bit of give. You are going to stand on one foot for the next version of the pose. Inhale, release, bring your hands up. Exhale, your hands to heart center. So, that's one side. That was right under the left. So switching sides now, bring the right arm underneath the left. I'm mirroring you, ladies, so if I'm saying something that's opposite of what you're doing, I apologize. Sometimes I get my directions confused, but basically we're doing the other side now. So bring your palms towards the ceiling and bring your hands together. And if you can, interlace your fingers. It's gonna feel different on one side. It's gonna be more challenging on one side and easier and harder to do on the other. Again, slight bend in your knees, getting ready to stand on one foot. This is just the arms. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Now let's take the pose further. Version 2 is where you start standing on one foot. So bring the weight onto your left foot. Inhale the arms up. Bring your left arm underneath your right. Now, bring your palms towards the ceiling. Interlace your fingers in version 1 and lift your right leg up. If you can, cross your right leg over your right, and you're trying to bring your foot behind you. However, first version of the pose, it's okay to not get that far. If you see where I'm at with my legs on my screen here, I'm just doing something like this. So my arms are in the upper position and I've crossed my right leg over my left. From the side, straight on, it looks like that. And what you want to do is work on sitting down as far as you can. Practice bringing the weight into your heels. Challenge your shin muscles or your tibialis anterior and pretend to sit down in an imaginary chair. The further you can get your seat towards the floor, the further you can progress in the pose. But this might be far enough. Inhale, step up, arms up. Exhale, hands down, heart center. Switching sides, bring the weight onto the other leg. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, right arm underneath left now. Left arm underneath right now. Bring the weight onto your right foot and cross your right leg over your left. Coming into the second version of the pose. You're squeezing your thigh bones together here, or your thigh muscles. The stronger you squeeze your legs together, the closer you can get your foot to reach behind you. In the third version of the pose, you can see my foot wiggling here on the screen. You're actually going to take it behind you. But for right now, just work on it being right here. Step up, out of the pose, exhale, hands to heart center. Switching sides. Bring the weight now onto the left foot. Actually, and we've done both sides. We're doing the third version of the pose now. So bring the weight onto the left foot. Inhale the arms up. Left arm underneath right. Palms to the ceiling. Form the bind. Inhale, step the right leg up. Exhale, cross it over the left, coming into version 1, version 2, or if you want to attempt version 3, bring the right foot all the way behind you and try to cross it all over your ankle. Now, I can't do that to demonstrate with this side. This hip is a little challenging for me, so I can't do version 3 on this side, but I can show it to you on the other side. But perhaps you can do version 3 on this side. Inhale the arms up, exhale, foot down, hands to heart center. Switching sides now. Bring the weight onto the right leg. Inhale the arms up. Right arm underneath left. Palms to the ceiling. Interlace the fingers. Bring the weight onto the right leg. Step the left leg up. Cross it over the right. Coming into version 1, version 2, or if you want to attempt version 3, take the foot and reach it behind the calf and form a lock. That might be asking way too much. However, some of us are capable, and if you can, teach it. That's the third version of the pose. Inhale, come up, arms up, hands down, and release. Now that is the balancing sequence. So those are 3 postures. We began with tree, then went into dancer, and then went into eagle. Those are all very common balancing poses that work great towards the middle of your workout. Now, let's progress to the next series of poses, which is done on the floor. So, from a standing position, inhale the arms up, exhale, fold forward, touch your toes. From here, step your right leg back into a lunge. Exhale, step your left leg back to meet your right, come into a plank position. Bring your knees to the floor, and then sit back on your heels. So I took you from a standing position back down to a seated position. These 3 poses or rather we have 2 more sets to do on the floor, and then we're going to transition into the next set, which is the warrior flow sequence. And then we're going to stitch it all together. So let's begin with the last of the floor series. So that is set 3 in your book, and that is done. First pose is called bow. So for bow pose, that's done on your belly. Again, it's another back bend. So in order to get into that pose, roll over your knees, bring your hands to the floor, and come into tabletop. You're going to notice that I'm going to do this a lot, get you from tabletop to a seated position to another position. So it works really well. From here, go into a plank position, and then bring your stomach towards the floor and come back into Sphinx pose that we began the class in. Now, this pose can be challenging to do. It's difficult to breathe on your stomach, and what I like to do is show you the easiest version, which is one leg at a time. So you begin on your belly, just like you were in Sphinx, and now come off of your elbows, bring your hands to the floor like you were doing in Cobra, and now bend your left knee. Just one leg at a time, just bend your left knee at first. Now reach for that knee, or rather reach for that foot with your hand. So reach for your left foot with your left hand. Grab the outside edge of that foot. Simply being here. This is a back bend and a quad stretch. We've gone over multiple poses in this particular position, and it asks a lot of those muscles. So this might be as far as somebody goes. Switching sides, bring the left foot to the floor. Now, bend the right leg. Reach for the right foot with the right hands. Grab the outside edge of the right foot. This is the first version of the pose. It's almost a combination of doing Cobra and Dancer that we've already done. It's very similar to that, except we're on our belly now. For the next version of the pose, bring both feet down to the floor. For this version, bend both legs now. So both feet are going towards the ceiling, and now reach for both feet. So grab the left foot with the left hand, grab the right foot with the right hand, or vice versa, and stay right here. Now what you want to do is come into the full expression of the pose. In order to do that, you've got to push and pull with your hands and your feet. Kick and pull. Rise up onto your lower ribs. The higher you can get on your stomach, the better. This pose asks a lot of you. It's very difficult to breathe in this position. Just remember to take breaths in and breaths out. See if you can balance on your stomach. There's a lot of blood and prana being sent to your abdomen at this area. It's difficult to do. And then release. Bring both feet down, bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Push up into Cobra. Bend your knees slightly, come up into tabletop, and sit back on your heels. The next pose is Yoga Mudra, which is done in this position with the feet underneath the heels, sitting in a hero type position. For the Yoga Mudra, inhale and exhale, bring your hands behind you. Interlace your fingers. From here, fold forward at the hip, bring the head towards the floor, and lift the hands towards the ceiling as high as you can. From the side, it looks like this. Now, this pose might be challenging to do, so come up and out of the pose. And just watch me for a second if you may. I have very tight triceps, so this pose is difficult for me to do. If you notice, I interlace my fingers. If you can see, my elbows are bent. Like my arms are not nearly as straight as they should be when I'm folding forward. There's a bend in my elbows. And in order to counterbalance that, a yoga strap really comes in handy. So if you have tight triceps and that pose is difficult to do, grab a yoga strap, reach it behind you, and now when you fold forward and lift your chest, it's a lot easier to keep the arms locked. See how much straighter my arms are? This is much better alignment, and I can get much further into the pose. So it's okay to use a yoga strap for that version. So either hero pose is a very simple pose. There's not a whole lot to it. You can use a strap or not, fold forward, try to bring your head towards the floor. Very simple pose. So that is a set in and of itself. So we transitioned from, there's one other pose. The final pose is what's called hero. So we've been sitting in a hero position, but from here, instead of folding forward and into the Yoga Mudra, take your hands and place them on your knees. Try to keep your arms straight and locked when you do this. Lift your belly, use your diaphragm and your core if you can. Lift your chest and open your heart as much as you can. This is a simple meditative position. You can take the pose further if you'd like by sitting in between your feet instead of on your ankles. Maybe you want to sit in between your feet, roll back and forth. Again, it helps to have some kind of mat to do this. This might be uncomfortable if you're on a hardwood surface. You might need more support than just your mat, maybe a blanket. But again, it's just one way of going further into the pose, testing your flexibility in this position. So this is another set. We did bow, which was the pose on our belly, into yoga mudra, into hero. So this set is more, I believe it to be the easiest of all the sets, because the only pose that's really challenging is bow. Hero and yoga mudra aren't very challenging poses, but they are nice in a seated position. So let's move on to the next set, which is, again, done from a seated position. So we do that. So from here we come into camel. For camel, and this is the start of set 4. For camel, come up onto your knees. Again, it's nice to have padding. If you have a cushion like myself that I'm on right now, this makes this a lot more comfortable. Perhaps you can use a towel or a blanket. You can fold your mat. There are all sorts of different ways to put padding underneath your knees. And the more padding you have under your knees, the less stress it feels and the easier it is. So for the first version of the pose, simply bring your hands to the small of your back. Squeeze your shoulders together, open your heart, and just tilt your neck backwards. Let go of your neck and just look behind you, basically. This is the first version of the pose. This is a very intense back bend, so it challenges people. Just doing this might be too much. But again, it's a really great place to begin, because the student can be on their knees, they can use both their hands, and they can work on releasing their neck, which is the most challenging part, at least for me, of doing this pose. Now let's take the pose a little bit further. Lift the neck, come out of the pose, take the hands off the small of the back, straighten the spine. For the next version, we do one arm at a time. So on this side, bring the right hand to the small of your back. Bring your left hand up and reach behind you. Tuck your tailbone, reach your pelvis forward, open your chest, squeeze your shoulders together, drop your neck, and attempt to look behind you. This is version 2 of camel. It's an intense back bend, and now we're using the other arm to go up. So it's a half version. Now, inhale, both hands up. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Switching sides. Bring the left hand to the small of your back now. Inhale, the right arm up. Exhale, squeeze the shoulders together, tuck the tailbone, lead with the pelvis, open the chest, loosen the neck, bend backwards, look behind you. Where the eyes go, so does the body. So again, this is an easy version of this pose. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Tuck the tailbone. Come back to neutral. Let's try the full expression of the pose. Now this can be done 2 ways, either on your ankles or on your shins. It's easiest to do on your shins. So let me show you. If you watch my screen real fast, it can be done one of two ways. You'll see my feet, my legs here. You're either going to keep your toes untucked and use your shins like this, or if you would like, you can tuck your toes under and then, and let me get this cushion is in the way here. So this is one version, feet flat. Second version is to tuck your toes and then bring your knees to the floor. This version, when I bring the screen up, you can see the difference because I'm going to bring one hand to each foot, one at a time. We're going to do one arm, and then both arms. So this version is easiest to do with your feet tucked under. However, if you want more of a challenge, you can do it like this and keep your shins palm flat to the floor and then reach one hand here, both hands back, depending on what version you're in. But let's first start like that. So I do recommend you have some kind of padding for this pose because it does ask a lot of your knees. Come up onto your knees, come into the first version. From here, reach the left arm towards the left foot. Reach the right arm back. You can tuck your toe under if you want, if that makes it easier to reach, or you can keep your feet flat on the floor. Switching sides now. Inhale the left arm up. Exhale, bring the right arm down now. Touch the right foot. Tuck the tailbone, lift the chest, drop the neck. Now, inhale the left arm up. Exhale, bring both hands to heart center. Let's try the most advanced version of the pose. For here, you're going to reach both hands at the same time. So instead of doing one side and then the other side, we're going to do both at once. So this asks a lot. So if it's too difficult, try an easier version of the pose. Inhale the hands to heart center. Exhale. Inhale, reaching one hand behind you, left or right first, doesn't matter. Go back to your heels. Tuck your tailbone. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Lift your chest. Drop your neck. Lead forward with the pelvis. And bring your hands to the small of your back. And exhale, bring your hands to heart center. That is camel. The next pose in this set is called boat pose. Boat pose is done seated down, or done on the floor. So sit down on your heels. Take your heels out underneath you. And reach both feet forward. From here, roll on. This is the first version of the pose. So simply lift your feet towards the ceiling. Now what you're going for is to have your lower legs to be parallel with the floor. So if you look at the screen, you can see that my shins and my calves are parallel with the floor. This is version 1. And there's a tendency here to roll down onto your tailbone. You don't want to be doing that. You actually want to be lifting up onto your sit bones. So what you're trying to do is actually lift your feet towards your head. Basically is what you're trying to do. This is an intense core workout, this particular pose. First version, this might be as far as somebody can go. This is asking a lot. If you want to take the pose further, you can. Straighten the legs. and then lift the arms. Whatever you do though, keep that integrity in your lower back. You might be struggling here, so you might have to come down to version 2. Do not roll onto your tailbone. Use the strength of your lower back to lift your chest. Use your core to lift your feet and straighten your legs. Coming out of the pose. Now that pose is hard for me to do. I have a very strong core, so I can lift my feet up pretty high. But the problem is I have a very weak lower back, which means it's difficult to stay on my sit bones. That's when you start rolling back on your tailbone because you're rounding your lower spine. You actually want to be lifting your chest, just like these forward folds we've been doing from this position. You want to be lifting, almost folding forward at the spine. So it's, again, lots of yoga poses to cover. These are just some of the ones that are very popular and excellent for core workout. The next pose in the set is called 8-limb pose. This is kind of this is a show-off pose, I like to call it. It's very challenging, and most of us might not be able to do it, so I will demonstrate it for fun. And if you would like to try and do it along with me, I encourage you to. However, you might just want to watch because it's not easy to do. And there really aren't multiple variations of it. This is either one of those poses that you can either do or you can't, and requires a lot of upper body strength to do. So how it's done, if you watch the screen, is very simple. You begin. It's a combination of crow pose, which is where you are like this. This is crow pose. Some of you might be familiar, which is where you come up like this. Yeah. So it's somewhat like that pose. It's a combination of that and something else. So what you do is you turn to the side. So I'm facing this way, but you guys are looking at me from the side, if you get what I'm trying to say. So take the hand behind. Take your right hand, reach it underneath your leg. And from here, take your other hand and bring it to the floor. And then bring this hand to the floor. So it looks like I'm coming into crow pose like I just showed you, but I'm on my side. And here, you then cross your ankles and then kick up into this position. So again, it requires upper body strength, but mostly balance and leg strength. So it's, again, I like to call it a show-off pose. It's really difficult to do. And I don't know why we haven't worked into this set, but I think it's just because it's fun to try, because it's so challenging and people just like to try it. Other people just like to watch. So switching sides now from this direction, I'll now reach the other hand underneath, bring this hand here, then bring both hands to the floor, then rest my one leg on top of this tricep, squeeze my legs together, and come up onto my hands. So I'm using my legs to squeeze together to hold my body up, and I'm using my upper body to balance on my hands. So again, I made that look much easier than it is. And it's a lot of fun. However, don't worry about that pose. And it's just fun to include that one. All right, so it is now almost noon. So what I want to do now is do one last set, and then we're going to do them all over again. So for now, let's just keep going forward with the warrior sequence. So for that, come up, roll over your knees, come into tabletop, come into plank, push into downward dog, inhale the left foot up, exhale, step it in between your hands. Now bring the right foot up to meet the left in a forward fold, and inhale, rise up to a standing position. Okay. So now that we've done the floor series and the balancing series, this part of the sequence is the flow, or the vinyasa part of the series. So this is a combination of 3 different poses, and I'll show you all variations of the poses, and then we'll link them together in a vinyasa. After that, we will go further. So for right now, let's begin with the first pose, which is Warrior Two. Warrior Two is a classic pose. I'm sure most of us are familiar with it already. And it's one of those poses that you really want to learn how to teach people how to do, because it's a very foundational pose. Requires a lot of leg strength, a lot of, and what's great about it is what I just said. It's about leg strength, so it makes your legs stronger. It's a great pose. So let's begin with Warrior Two. Now, Warrior Two, come to stand at the front edge of your mat. You should already be standing there. Make sure that you have yoga blocks nearby. Step or jump your feet apart. Actually, just watch me for a second. There's one thing I need to show you. Before we get into Warrior Two too deeply, I do want to show you one thing, and that's how to do it correctly. So to do that, your knee needs to be in a certain position. I'm going to show you on my right side. Step the feet about 3 or 4 feet apart, turn the right foot out, and then bend the knee. Now, what you can see here is, it may be difficult, but my knee is staying above my ankle. I'm not doing something like this. I can't tell you how many yoga commercials I've seen where I see the person in the yoga commercial doing this, and it just drives me crazy. This is so damaging to the knee. And if you can see it, my knee is way here and my foot is over here. So there's this horrible compression going on in my knee. Whatever you do in Warrior Two, keep the knee over the ankle. And if that means you need to keep this leg slightly straight, then that's okay. What's important is that the alignment of the bone structure is where it needs to be. Ideally, in Warrior Two, your leg should be so bent that it forms a 90-degree angle here. But no matter what I'm doing, my knee is not extending beyond my ankle. This leg is closer to parallel with the floor. It's not perfect Yoga Journal magazine, but it's close to the floor. And again, it's okay if I need to adjust my stance and make it shorter. So that's just one thing I really want to make clear, is that concept of keeping the knee over the ankle, no matter where you are in the pose. So, now that I've gone over that, let's continue. Stand at the front edge of your mat. Stand in mountain pose. Step or jump your feet apart. 3 or 4 feet distance is what you want to do. Depends on the individual, but roughly 3 to 4 feet. From here, bring your hands to your hips. Now, turn your right foot out and turn your left foot in. Bend into your right leg. Again, maintaining the knee over the ankle. If your knee starts going over the ankle this way, you need to take a wider stance. So if you're starting to do this like I showed you, and you're leaning forward like this, adjust your stance. Take a longer stance. And keep your hands right here. This is Warrior Two. Your gaze is to the right, and your shoulders are squeezing together, so your chest is facing in front of you, but you're looking to the right. Version 1, easy, non-invasive. Now, straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Bend into the left knee now, adjusting your stance as you need to. Make sure that the knee stays over the ankle. If you need to take a longer stance, then do that. One side is going to be different than the other. Hands on hips, looking now to the left. Breathing into that lunging leg. Send breath to that left leg. From here, straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in. Turn the right foot out. Now, bend into the right knee, coming back into Warrior Two on this side, except coming into Version 2. For Version 2, take your thumbs and hook them underneath your armpits. So what you're doing by doing this is you're lifting the chest and you're squeezing the shoulder blades together. You're bending into that lunging leg, lifting your chest and looking to the right. This is the second version of the pose. Again, this pose asks a lot of your legs. So breathe if you're feeling tired. Straighten the right leg. Keeping your hands where they are, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Adjust your stance slightly if you need to. Bend into that left knee now, that left leg. Squeezing the shoulder blades together, lifting the chest, gazing to the left, finding a balance between lunging forward and extending back with the other leg. Try not to lean into this left knee. Instead, remember that the right leg is there. Straighten the right leg and bring some of the weight into your right leg. From here, straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend the right knee, coming into Versions 2 of Warrior 2. From here, take your thumbs out from underneath your armpits and straighten your arms. Bring your palms towards the ceiling, your elbow creases towards the ceiling. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Look to the right. Keeping your elbows creases facing the ceiling, turn your wrists so that now your palms are facing the floor and your elbows are facing the ceiling. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Take a deep breath in and out. This is the full expression of Warrior 2. From here, straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend now into the left leg. Take your palms, reach them towards the ceiling. Elbow creases towards the ceiling. Gaze is to the left, staring out in front of you. Now, Keeping your elbow creases where they are. Turn your wrists so that your palms are facing the floor. Take a deep breath in and out. From here, straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in. Turn the right foot out. Turn the left foot in. Bring your hands to your hips. And release. That is Warrior 2. So I showed you 3 versions of Warrior 2 on both sides. I love Warrior 2 because it's used a lot. It's a very good pose. Extremely good on the legs. One thing I want to talk about real quick before I move on to the next pose is this tendency. In Warrior 2, people tend to be doing one of 2 things. They're either doing this, where they're reaching forward like this, and they're putting too much weight into that lunging leg. These people are said to be stuck in the future. They're stuck in the future. They can't see anything but what's ahead of them. And conversely, you might do the pose like this, which is where you bend back and you're reaching in the other direction. And there's not enough bend in this front leg, and this leg is all straight. These people are said to be stuck in the past and can only see what's behind them. So what you want to do is be in the middle. Find the balance between lunging forward into the future, yet having a conscious awareness of the past while you reach back. This back standing leg is important. You need to be aware of it and use it properly, or else this leg is going to get too tired. Because if you're lunging with this leg and this leg isn't in the right position, you're going to get tired. So this leg needs to be engaged correctly in the past, yet reaching towards the future. You want to be in the present moment. So that's one thing I like to say about Warrior 2. Moving on to the next pose in the sequence. That pose is extended side angle. Now, what's great about extended side angle is it's very similar to Warrior 2 with the legs. They're in the same position. So they work off each other very well. It's easy to go from Warrior 2 into side angle. That's why it's often paired together. So let's show you 3 versions of side angle. For the first version, bring your hands to your hips, turn your right foot out, turn your left foot in, just like Warrior 2. Bend into that right knee. Coming in to the full expression of Warrior 2, lift the arms. From here, make sure that you have a yoga block nearby. So reach for a yoga block and place it in front of you, or at least place it to your right. Now, cartwheel the arms down. What you want to do is reach one arm ahead of you towards the front edge of your mat, your top arm, and you want to take your bottom arm and rest your elbow on your thigh. This is the first version of the pose, where you take the elbow and rest it on the thigh. It's the easiest version and is where you begin, is right here. And again, try to fight that urge of over lunging into this right leg. Remember that back left leg can provide you strength and lift you up. You don't necessarily want to be lunging too much. From here, cartwheel the arms back to Warrior 2. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in. Turn the left foot out. Make sure that you have a yoga block nearby on your left side. Bend into your left knee now. Coming into the full version of Warrior 2. From Warrior 2, cartwheel the left arm down and the right arm up. Resting the left elbow on the left knee. Noticing a difference. One side is easier to do than the other side is more challenging. No matter which side that is for you, just breathe into it. From here, cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend into the right leg, coming into warrior two. Cartwheel the left arm up, the right arm down, coming into version one of side angle. From here, grab a yoga block. Take the yoga block on the outside edge of your foot and reach for it with your fingertips. This is the second version of the pose. You can experiment here with the yoga block. You can make it taller or shorter. On the tallest facet, maybe this is where you want to be. Perhaps that's too easy and you want to take it down a notch. Maybe that notch is achievable, so you go down another level. Whatever level of the yoga block you want to use is fine. This is version 2 of side angle. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior 2. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in. Take the yoga block, bring it to the other side. Turn the left foot out. Bend the left knee, coming into warrior 2. Cartwheel the left arm down, the right arm up, coming into version 1, side angle. Elbow on the thigh. From here, take the yoga block on the outside edge of your left foot. Reach your fingers to grasp the top of the block. Experiment with the different facets, either keeping it on the tallest facet, medium facet, shortest facet, whatever. Or stay in version 1. From here, cartwheel the arms back to warrior 2. Straighten the left leg, turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Take the yoga block, bring it to the other side. Place it on the outside edge of your right foot. Bring your arms out. Bend into your front lunging leg into warrior 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, cartwheel the right arm down, the left arm up. Coming into version 1. Coming into version 2. Or maybe you can come into version 3, which is where you take your hand and you reach it, your right hand, and reach it all the way down to the floor. This might be asking a lot, but maybe you can touch the floor with your right hand. Bring your left arm up, reach one line of energy from the top hand down to the bottom foot. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior 2. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Take the yoga block to the other side. Inhale, exhale, warrior 2. Inhale, exhale, cartwheel the left arm down, the right arm up. Coming into version 1, version 2, or maybe version 3 on this side, bringing the left hand down all the way to the floor if you can. If not, that's okay. Stick with versions 1 or 2. And cartwheel the arms back to warrior 2. Straighten the left foot, the left leg, turn the left foot in. All right, that is side angle. So we've done all 3 versions of that pose. The final version, or the final pose in this set, is triangle pose. Again, triangle pose is very similar to warrior 2 and side angle in terms of the orientation of your legs, which is why they're often taught together. They're very easy to go from one to the other to the other. So it's an excellent sequence of poses to pair together. So that being said, let's do all 3 versions of triangle now. For triangle, step your feet apart just like you are in warrior 2, except it's going to be slightly smaller. So instead of a 3 to a 4 foot distance, go to a 2 to a 3 foot distance. Something like that. About 6 to 8 inches shorter. From here, turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. From here, bring your hands to your hips. Now, for the first version, it's very easy. Lift both of your arms like you're coming into Warrior Two. Reach to the right as far as you can. Reach, reach, and reach. When you can reach forward no more, bring your right hand to your shin and bring your left arm up and your hand towards the ceiling and gaze upward towards your left hand. This is version 1 of triangle. This is where most people start, is right here. Easy, non-invasive, supportive. Cartwheel the arms back to Warrior Two. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Switching sides now. Reach forward with the left hand. Reach forward as far as you can. Reach, 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 and reach. When you can reach forward no more, then bring your left hand to your left shin. Turn your palm towards the front, and then bring your right hand towards the ceiling, trying to basically get your shoulder blades to stack over each other. So what you're trying to do is get your right hand and your left hand to be reaching in opposite directions, if that makes sense. When you do that, you'll feel a stretch in your side waist. From here, cartwheel the arms back to Warrior Two. Turn the left foot in, the right foot out. Reach forward to the right as far as you can. When you can reach forward no more, then bring your right hand down to a yoga block. Take the yoga block and put it on the inside edge of your foot. This is version 2. A little bit more challenging than version 1, but further in the pose. Now, I'm sorry, ladies, I have that backwards. Bring the block to the outside edge of the foot. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to be confusing you. Come back into Warrior Two. I had it right the first time. Warrior Two. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Coming into the next version. Reach forward to the right, reach forward to the left. Reach forward as far as you can. When you can reach forward no more, then bring your left hand to the yoga block. Inside edge. From here, cartwheel the arms back to Warrior Two. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. I'm doing that right. This is the most advanced version of the pose. Reach forward to the right. Reach as far as you can. When you can reach forward no more, now bring your hand all the way to the floor, your right hand. This is the hardest version of the pose, and again requires the most flexibility and strength to do. What you're trying to do is reach your hands in opposite directions so that your shoulder blades stack on one another. So you're reaching up with the up hand, with the top hand, which frees up your neck, and you're reaching down with the bottom hand, which stabilizes your core. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Reach now to the left. Last side, last set. Reach forward as far as you can. When you can reach forward no more, bring the left hand all the way down to the floor. From here, cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Turn the left foot in, bring your hands to your hips. Now what I would like to do is combine all those poses together. So I just showed you how to do them individually, multiple modifications. Now I want to show you what it's like when you pair them all together. So to do that, let's do them all together. Come to stand at your mat. From here, step or jump your feet apart, 3 or 4 feet. Turn your right foot out, turn your left foot in. Bend into your right knee. Adjust your stance, make it longer if you need to. Keep the knee over the ankle. Bring your hands into versions 1, 2, or 3 of warrior 2. Gaze is to the right. Take a breath in and take a breath out. In and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. Straighten the right knee. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Bend into the left knee. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of warrior 2. Gaze is to the left. Take a breath in and out. In and out. In, out. In, out. In and out. Straighten the right leg, straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend into the right standing knee, coming into warrior 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, cartwheel the left arm down, the right arm up. The right arm down, the left arm up. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of extended side angle. Take a breath in and out. In and out. In, out. In, out. In and out. Take a breath in, cartwheel the arms back to warrior 2. Exhale, straighten the right leg, turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Take a breath in. Exhale, lunge into warrior 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, cartwheel the left arm down, the right arm up. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3. A side angle on this side. Take a breath in and out. In and out. In, out. In and out. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Turn the right foot in. Turn the left foot out. Slightly adjust your stance as you need to. Make it a little bit shorter. Reach forward with the right hand. When you can reach forward no more, bring the right arm down, the left arm up. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3. Side angle, of triangle. Take a breath in and out. In and out. In, out. In, out. In and out. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Turn the right foot in, the left foot out. Last side, last set. Reach forward with the right hand. Reach. When you can reach forward no more, the left hand, bring the left hand down. Right arm up. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of triangle. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. Cartwheel the arms back to warrior two. Straighten, turn the right foot in, left foot in. Bring your hands to your hips and release. Okay, so that was a vinyasa flow. So we did all 3 of those poses. 5 seconds each is what I tried to keep in time with you with. And we did whatever version of the pose you wanted to do. So now that we've talked about pretty much all of the poses and all of the modifications, there is, I think, one last one I want to get to. Actually, let's see. Let's do a recap with the timing real quick here. See where we're at. So it is now 2 o'clock my time, which is 12 o'clock your time. So that means that let's see here. I'm trying to figure out how to work in the break here, ladies. So if it's 12 o'clock your time, my plan was to give it to you at 1 o'clock your time, which is in 1 hour. So what that's going to mean is that gives us basically an hour to do what we have all done already. So we're going to repeat this entire sequence, except we're going to do it in time. I'm not going to have you standing up and standing down and standing up and standing down and standing on one foot and then going down to the floor in the back bend. I'm going to show you the way it should be taught in terms of a sequence. So we're going to go from a standing position into a balancing position, into a flow, which is what we just did. Then I'm going to transition you to the floor. Then you'll start doing your forward folds, your back bends, your twists, those kind of poses. And then you'll end with Shavasana. So this whole process is probably only going to take us about 30 minutes to do. It might take us the full hour, but I don't think it's going to take us the full hour to do all that again. So this will give you some idea of what it's like to teach a fully sequenced course with an end and a beginning in mind right from the start. And then what I'll do is I'll give you the break afterwards. So at 1 o'clock your time, 3 o'clock my time, it's going to be break time. And then we'll have our hour break, meet up for the sun salutations afterwards, and go from there. Before I go any further, Nikki, I still haven't forgotten about you. I don't see you at your monitor here, but I know that you do need to go first for the sun salutation presentations because you have to leave or something like that. So I'm going to try to reach out to you again before the break. Just to make sure I know you know that you're in and that you're going to go first so that you can get in before you have to leave. So Now let's do everything all together, everybody. We're gonna do one vinyasa flow. So we're gonna do all those poses again. Whatever version you want, 1, 2, or 3. Hard, medium, or easy. Entirely up to you. And this way you'll have some idea of what it's like to properly sequence your class. Because trust me, this will make so much more sense if we do it all again. So, let's begin. Stand at the front edge of your mat. Make sure that your yoga blocks are nearby. Stand with your feet together. Feet, tailbones slightly tucked, shoulder blades squeezing together. Release the elbows, tuck the chin. Mountain pose. Inhale, step or jump the feet apart. Turn the left foot out. Turn the right foot out, turn the left foot in. Adjust your stance, 3 or 4 feet distance. Bend your right knee, come into Warrior 2. Version 1, version 2, version 3. Look to the right. Remember to breathe. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out. Bend into the bend into the left leg. Reach to the left. Look to the left. Versions 1, 2, or 3 of Warrior 2. Straighten the left leg. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend into the right leg now. Warrior 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, cartwheel the right arm down, the left arm up. Coming into version 1, 2, or 3 of side angle. Cartwheel the arms back to Warrior 2. Straighten the right leg, turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend into the left leg now. Reach to the left. Gaze to the left. Warrior 2. Take a breath in. Exhale, cartwheel the left arm down, the right arm up. Coming into extended side angle. Version 1, 2, or 3. Whatever your preference. Now, cartwheel the arms back to Warrior 2. Straighten the the left leg. Turn the left foot in, turn the right foot out. Bend into the right leg. No bending into the right leg. Adjust your stance, slightly shorter. Reach with the right arm out as far as you can. When you can reach forward no more, bring your right hand to your shin, to your ankle, to a yoga block, all the way to the floor for whatever version you'd like, and then bring your left arm up towards the ceiling, reaching in opposite directions. and remembering to breathe. Cartwheel the arms back, warrior two. Turn the right foot in, turn the left foot out, reach to the left, reach as far as you can. Inhale, exhale, bring the left hand to version 1, 2, or 3, triangle. Right hand reaches up towards the ceiling. Inhale, come back into warrior two. Turn the left foot in, bring your hands to your hips. That was the standing series. I would recommend you start with that. After that, the balancing series is next. Step or jump your feet together. From here, bring your weight onto the right foot. Bring your left foot into versions 1, 2, or versions 3 of tree. Bring your hands to your heart center. Raise your hands towards the ceiling. The wider your hands, the easier balance. The closer your hands, the more challenging. If you want an extra challenge, try closing your eyes. Bring your hands back to heart center. Bring the left foot down. Bring the weight onto the left foot. Bring the left foot into bring the weight on the left foot. Bring the right foot now into versions 1, 2, or 3 of tree. Bringing your hands to your heart center. Raising your hands towards the ceiling if you can. And bring your hands back to heart center. Release your foot. Bring the weight down onto your right foot, switching sides. Nope, never mind, that's both sides. So that was tree pose. The next pose is dancer pose. So for that pose, bring the weight onto your left foot. Bend your right knee. Grab the instep of your right foot with your right hand. Take a breath in. Exhale. Come into versions 1, 2, or 3 of dancer pose now. Take a breath in and out. Now, come out of dancer pose. Bring the right foot down. Bring the weight onto the right foot now. Inhale. Exhale. Grab the instep of your left foot. Take another breath in. Inhale the right arm up. Exhale, fold forward at the hip, coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of dancer. From here, inhale, exhale, come out of the pose, bring the weight onto your left foot. Moving on to the final pose in this sequence, which was eagle. Bring your feet about hip distance apart. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, bring the left arm underneath the right. Bring the palms towards the face. Form the bind. Bring the weight into your right foot. And then reach your left up and over and cross it over your leg. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of eagle pose. From here, inhale, step up, arms up, foot down. Exhale, hands to heart center, switching sides. Inhale the arms up. Now the left arm underneath the right now. Switching sides, bring the weight onto the left foot. Bring the right leg now up and over. Form the binds with the hands, coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of eagle. And step up and out, hands to heart center. Okay, so that was the standing series and the balancing series. At this point in your class, it's a good time to transition into your peak pose. So this is the point to where you would start doing the pose that you're trying to work towards. So whatever that pose is, we don't have a peak pose in mind for this particular class, so it's open-ended. At this point, it's time to transition down to the floor. So to do that, stand with your feet together. Inhale the arms up, exhale, fold forward, touch your toes. Step your right leg back into a lunge. Step your left foot back to meet your right. Bring your knees to the floor, coming into tabletop. And then sit back onto your heels. From here, adjust my angle here. From here, roll onto your side and cross your ankles. From here, roll over your ankles and come into cobra pose. You can stay in version 1, which is the Sphinx pose with the elbows underneath the shoulders. Or you can come into version 2 with the hands underneath the shoulders. Or you can come into version 3 where you lift into the full expression of the pose. And bring your stomach back down to the floor. Curl your toes under. Push into your hands. Come into a push-up position, plank. Bring your knees to the floor. Roll over on the other side now on your left. And cross your ankles. From here, extend the left leg out and keep the right leg in. Make sure that you have a yoga strap nearby. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, fold forward at the hips, using the yoga strap or touching your toes. From here, take the left foot in now, extend the right foot out. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, fold forward over the hip. Switching sides. Coming into versions 1, 2, or 3 of seated forward fold. Switching sides. From here, cross your ankles. Inhale the left arm up, reach behind you. Exhale, inhale the right arm up and cross the right hand to the left knee. Twist to the right. To the left, excuse me. From here, come back to center. Switching sides. Inhale the right arm behind you. Exhale. Inhale the left arm up. Exhale, bring the left hand to the right knee. Twist now to the right. From here, bring your hands back to heart center. Roll over your knees onto your hands. Come into a push-up position. Then lower to the ground. From here, bend one leg at a time. Reaching for one arm at a time behind you. Or perhaps reaching with both hands, coming into the full expression of the pose. And release. From here, bring your hands underneath your shoulders, come up into a push-up position. Drop your knees down, coming into tabletop. And then sit back onto your heels. From here, make sure that you have a yoga strap nearby. Reach it behind you. Inhale, interlace the fingers behind you or use a yoga strap. Exhale, fold forward at the hip and bring the head towards the floor. Inhale, come up. And exhale, release. From here, take a breath in. Exhale, bring your hands to your knees. Straighten your arms, tuck your tailbone, lift your chest, tuck your chin. Coming into hero pose. If you'd like, you can try sitting in between your feet if you have the proper support. From here, release hero pose. Come up onto your knees. From here, bring your hands to the small of your back. You can tuck your toes under for an easier version of the pose, or you can keep your legs flat for more of a challenge. Inhale the right arm up, and exhale, bring the right hand down to the the right hand down to the right foot. Bring the left arm behind you. Inhale, reach both hands up. Exhale, bring the left hand down to the left foot. Reach behind you with the right hand. Release the chin. Version 1 or 2 of camel. Inhale, both hands up. Sticking with versions 1 or 2, alternating sides, or if you want to try version 3, bring both hands to your feet. Tuck your tailbone. Lift, squeeze your shoulder blades. Open your chest. Release your neck. Inhale, bring the hands to the small of your back. Exhale, tuck your spine around your spine and come out. From there, sit down, cross your ankles in front of you. From here, inhale, lift your feet, roll up onto your sit bones, coming into versions 1 or 2 of boat pose. And bring the feet down. From here, if you want to try 8 angle pose, please do. And if you don't have to. Reach your right hand underneath your left leg. Bring your left turn to the left. Bring your left hand to the floor. Bring your right hand to the floor. Cross your ankles. Bring your right leg to rest onto your right tricep and kick up. Squeeze the legs together, roll forward, balancing on the hands. Come down, switching sides. Now, reach the right arm underneath the left leg. Take the right hand turned to the right. Take the right hand to the floor. Take the left hand to the floor. Cross the ankles. Now rest the left leg on top of the right, the right leg on top of the left leg on top of the left arm. Oh, it's so hard to mirror. Sorry, guys. Coming in to the full expression of the pose. And release. Okay, that was pretty much more like what a vinyasa flow should be like, is what we just did. So it began with the standing postures, then we went into balancing postures, then we went into a floor series. You went from standing to the floor. There was no up and down, back and forth this time. That's more of like the way it should probably go. All right, so that didn't take as much time as I thought. It really only took us about 15-20 minutes to do that all again. So this really depends on the length of the class that you're teaching to determine how many poses you want to put in, how long you hold the poses for, and when to start using certain types of poses over others, whether it's back bends, twists, forward folds, inversions, standing, balancing. there's so many different types of poses, and you have an incredible amount of freedom to choose what you want to choose to choreograph that sequence. So we've provided you with a lot of different poses and ways you can modify those poses for a beginner level course. There's so many more things you can do, but this is a great way to start. Now, let's see what time it is. It's almost 3 o'clock my time, so it's almost 1 o'clock your time, which means it's just about time to take your break. So now, what we need to do is, what I like to do for the last 20 minutes or so is ask any questions. This is the part of class where I like to leave it open to the class and ask any question you'd like, whether it's about a certain pose, a certain sequence of poses, any questions you might have. This is the part of class where I like to allow people to ask some questions, because I'm sure somebody's got to have some by now. So with that in mind, does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask about a pose or a sequence of poses or something that they're confused about that I may have confused you on? Or is everybody looking pretty good? I'm not seeing any responses at the moment. So that must mean that we're doing all right for now and that we don't want to ask any questions and we're okay, which I'm fine with. So let's see here. Still waiting on Nikki. I apologize, everybody. I've got to get Nikki in. She has to leave early, so I really hope she bounces back soon so that we can do the practical part with her. So either way, we'll figure that out later. So, but right now, let's move on with the rest of the class and figure out what we're going to do with the next 20 minutes, and then we'll take a break. So the last thing I'd like to talk about will be upward dog and downward dog. So what we're going to do next is, after our break, we're going to do sun salutations. Now that's the part of the class where that's your practicum. That's where you start teaching. So once we get back from our break, I'll show you how to do a sun salutation so that you don't know, or so that if you don't know, you'll know what to do. And then we'll go from there. So, upward dog, downward dog. Now, the reason I want to talk about them is because of the sun salutations. So, there's this part in the sun salutation where you go from upward dog to downward dog. And it's a transitional part of the sequence. So, there are a few things I want to cover with you. Upward dog and downward dog, upward dog and cobra. First of all, what's the difference? There's not much of a difference. However, there is one very important key difference, and that is how it's done with your legs. So, allow me to show you real quick what I mean. What I mean is this. In cobra, typically, cobra is done like this. So you come into a plank position, you roll down, and if you look at my legs, you can see that they're straight together and they're flat on the floor. So my thighs are touching the floor. That's what cobra looks like. The upper body, sorry for all that scratching, everybody. The upper body looks like this, which is where the hands are underneath the shoulders, and you go up like this with the legs together. So this is more challenging to do because it's more of a heart opener. Upward dog is the same thing, except you tuck your toes under. So what that looks like is like this. Instead of being feet flat, I'll tuck my toes, and then I will come up. So you can see there on the screen, there's space in between the floor and my legs. My thighs aren't touching the floor. That's upward dog. It's easier to do. Cobra, upward dog. So it's not only easier on the lower body, you can see a tremendous difference in how open my heart is. Like, for example, this is as far as I can go in Cobra without compromising my alignment. And this is how far I can go in upward dog. See how much more open my chest is. Now, part of that's just body alignment and or body composition, I should say. But it varies from person to person. So that is upward dog and downward dog. Or excuse me, that's just upward dog. Downward dog is this. So we've done it a few times. Now, I'd like to show you a few modifications. I struggle with this pose because, like I said, I have tight hamstrings. So I can't demonstrate it as beautifully as I'd like. However, I can get the message in just fine. So to begin with downward dog, you want to start with something simple. And to do that, you have your students measure out the length of their dog. So to do that, you bring them in the tabletop, then you have them extend into plank, and then they lift into downward dog. So for individuals like myself, I really need to bend my knees. You can see my knees are extremely bent in order to keep my spine straight. Once I start to straighten my legs like this, you can see my shoulders lean forward and I start to droop, which means the weight is no longer in my feet, it's all in my hands. The purpose of downward dog is you almost want to be trying to lift into a standing position. So you really need to use a lot of leg strength to do it. And ideally, you want your ankles to touch the floor. As I said, I can't quite demonstrate that for you. This is as far, that's as good as my downward dog goes. I cannot get my ankles to the floor and keep them straight. I will someday, but as of the moment, what I'll do is I'll show you a picture. So what I have here is from Moving into Balance from Rodney Yee. Rodney Yee is one of my heroes. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at Kripalu once, and he's such an incredible yogi. He does such great work, and I got him to sign my book and everything. It was fabulous. So the reason why I mentioned that is because I want to give him his citation and because I am taking something out of his book. So that is right here, I think. Yep. Okay, so 3 versions of downward dog. You can see them all here. The top version is the one I've been showing you. This is where I'm at in my yoga path. I need to have my knees extremely bent, and you'll notice here that or you may not be able to notice, but his heels are off of the ground. He's bouncing on his toes in this pose. Version 1, downward dog. Version 2, he then comes up onto his tippy toes and straightens his legs. You'll see here the nice V shape that formed between his legs and his upper body. He doesn't have his heels down to the floor. He's still balancing on his toes, but you can see that the back is still very straight, and now the legs are straight. Now that the legs are straight and the back is straight, he takes it to the third version of the pose, which is classic downward dog, which is where you form that beautiful V with your legs and your arms, and your heels are all the way to the floor. This requires flexibility in the hamstrings, the calves, the Achilles tendon, all sorts of muscles in the legs need to be very flexible in order to do this. Also very strong. This position is, how it's designed is you're supposed to be holding the weight of your body in your feet, not in your hands. Individuals like myself really struggle with this because I have a large upper body. So my center of mass is higher, which means I carry my weight in my hands in this pose, which prevents me from straightening my spine, basically. So in my path, I need to work on basically getting to this step here, which is going from having very bent knees to getting my legs straight, and then work on getting my heels to the floor for version 3. So those are some things I like to go over with upward dog and downward dog, because as I said, they are transitional parts of the poses, or parts of a sun salutation. So that just about does it for now, everybody. We've covered everything so far. So we haven't missed anything. We've gotten on in all the poses, and we're a couple minutes ahead of schedule. So I guess what we should do now is probably start the break. So what I want to do, actually, I'd really like to give Nikki another chance. Maybe she's tried to email me here. No, I'll figure out what's happening with Nikki later, guys. I'm sorry. So let's I've covered everything so far, everybody. There's really no point in me talking more about certain things. I've covered all the poses. Could definitely talk about some pranayama and some lecture notes that I didn't get a chance to talk about this morning, but I would rather save that until later in the day. I think it would make more sense to talk about that later in the day. So with that being said, let's start our break. What we're going to do is take an hour-long break. And so we'll meet back here at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock my time, which is 2 o'clock your time. So 2 o'clock, meet back at our break. So you're going to get a little bit more than an hour. I'm going to try to reach out to people before the start of that hour, but at about 4 o'clock my time, which is 2 o'clock your time, that's when we're going to start the sun salutations. So I'll take about an hour to talk about them, or not an hour, it won't take that long, a half hour, 45 minutes to talk about them, how to do them, things like that. And then we'll practice them together so that you are familiar with how they work and how they feel in the body. And then we'll start teaching it. So that process takes about an hour and a half to get through everybody. And then for the last hour of class, we'll do meditation. So if nobody has any questions, everybody, I think we can start our break now. So let's meet up. I really don't want to give you more than an hour break because that's too much time. So why don't we meet back here I'd say we meet back here at I'm just so bad with math, ladies, and converting the time with the time zones. I just don't want, because I'm dyslexic too, so I mix up my lefts and my rights and my ups and my downs. So let's meet back here at 4:15 my time, which is 3. Oh my God. It is now 3 o'clock my time, almost, which means it's almost 1 o'clock your time. So 3:15. Is that the right math, everybody? Am I saying that right? Is that like a 45-minute break or an hour break? Take an hour break. That's basically what I mean. Meet me back here in an hour, and then we'll go from there. Sorry for the confusion, everybody. I'm usually better with that, but you all know what I mean. So an hour break from now. So meet back here before 3 before 1 o'clock, please, because I'd like to start before then. And we'll go from there. So enjoy your break, guys. Try not to eat too much. Just have a little snack. And one other thing you could do over your break, if you'd like, is I can forward you, if you don't have a copy of the book has the sun salutations, because that's what we're about to go over. So if you would like a copy of my lecture notes to study for after your lunch break or something like that, I'd be more than happy to share them. So does anybody want that, or are we okay?
I would like
Yes.
to. Yeah.
You have volunteers? I figured we would.
I do too. Melanie does.
I do too.
I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that everybody wants it then. That'll be simpler. So what I'll do is I'll email everybody the notes over the lecture notes over the break. And you can print them out if you'd like, or you can look at them on your computer, have something to eat, drink some water, look over the notes. Try to keep yourself a little moving though. Don't stand still and let yourself cool down, because I don't want too much time to go by, because we are going to work out for a little bit longer. We've got to get through all the sun salutations. So we've done the hard stuff, but this is the part of the class where it gets difficult, because I don't want the students to cool down too quickly by giving them an hour-long break. So take your break, and I'll see you soon.